Hi and Assalamualaikum from JBA 251-2B. And today we will present our topic on how rising inflation can significantly affect various aspects of the economy, finance, and individual behavior. This presentation is for Sir Bazri bin Abu Bakar. First, let us introduce our group members.
Hi, Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Today I will explain about how rising inflation affects the economy, finance and also individual behavior. Inflation refers to the increase in price of goods and services over time. When inflation rises, the value of money decreases, causing people to spend more to buy the same goods and services. Rising inflation can happen due to factors such as higher production costs and supply problems. Inflation affects individuals by increasing the cost of living and changing spending habits. It also affects businesses and the overall economy. Therefore, understanding inflation is important because it influences financial decisions and economic stability.
The textbook says when inflation rate rise, bank negara must raise interest rates to cool down spending. It sounds logical, slow down demand, low price. But we need to ask at what cost? If inflation is driven by global shocks, raising rates won't fix the supply. Instead, it will create a double whammy. Small businesses face skyrocketing expenses and higher borrowing costs. When they cut production or lay off workers to survive, ordinary people cooling down the economy by forcing layoff isn't a solution. It's just shifting the pain into the most vulnerable.
Today, I will present the SWOT analysis of rising inflation. Inflation has several strengths, such as encouraging consumers to spend more before prices increase and helping businesses increase sales and revenue. It can also reduce the real burden of debt for individuals and companies. However, inflation also has weaknesses. Higher prices reduce the consumer purchasing power and decrease the real value of savings over time, especially when inflation is higher than interest rates. In terms of opportunities, businesses can expand their operations, increase investment, and benefit from rising demand. Some sectors, such as property and commodities, may also experience growth. On the other hand, inflation creates threats by causing economic uncertainty. Unpredictable prices can affect budgeting, financial planning, and investment decisions. If inflation remains high for a long period, it can increase living costs and negatively impact economic stability. That's all from me. Thank you.
Now, we move on the effect on the economy. Inflation reduces consumer purchasing power, causing demand for goods and services to decline. As a result, businesses may experience lower sales, reduce production, and delay expansion plans, which can slow economic growth. Inflation also increases businesses' operating costs and creates uncertainty that may discourage investment. To maintain economic stability, Bank Negara Malaysia keep the OPR at 2.75% to manage inflationary pressures. Therefore, inflation continues to affect consumer spending, business performance, and overall economic growth in Malaysia.
Inflation affects investment income as higher inflation lowers the real returns from fixed income investments, savings, and bonds, reducing actual profits over time. Inflation also creates budgeting difficulties because prices become less predictable and future expenses may increase. This makes financial planning more challenging for both individuals and business. In Malaysia, inflation increased the cost of essential goods and services such as food and transport, while businesses face higher operating costs and consumers experience lower purchasing power. To control inflation, Bank Negara Malaysia may adjust interest rates to influence borrowing, investment, and economic growth. Therefore, inflation plays an important role in Malaysia's financial and economic stability.
Among all groups in society, individuals are often the most directly affected by rising inflation. Two major effects are the rising cost of living and increased financial stress. First, inflation causes the price of essential goods and services to increase. As a result, people have to spend more of their income on daily necessities. According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia and Khazanah Research Institute, households earning below 2,000 ringgit spend almost all of their income, leaving little to no room for savings. In contrast, higher income households are better able to absorb rising costs and maintain their savings. Second, inflation increases financial stress. Many individuals are forced to tighten their budgets and reduce spendings to remain financially stable. Over time, this can weaken emergency funds and increase anxiety about unexpected expenses such as medical bills or repair. Therefore, inflation significantly affects individuals by reducing their standard of living and influencing their overall spending behavior.
In conclusion, inflation affects consumer, businesses and the economy. As price rise, people tend to buy less with the same amount of money, reducing their purchasing power and increasing living costs. Businesses also face higher operating costs, which may lead to higher price for goods and services. Overall, inflation creates financial challenges and economic uncertainty. Therefore, cooperation between government, businesses and consumers is important to control inflation and maintain economic stability. With proper policy and financial planning, the negative effect of inflation can be reduced.
To bring down inflation and stabilize the economy, a coordinated threefold policy should be implemented: monetary tightening, supply side strengthening, and targeted social assistance. So first, the central bank should gradually raise the interest rate in controlled and predictable way. This helps manage inflation expectations and reduce the excessive spending without causing a major economic slowdown. So higher interest rate increasing the borrowing costs, which reduce the consumption and investment, helping to ease demand and lower price pressure in the economy. So second, the government should strengthen the supply side by investing in infrastructure and also production capacity. Inflation is partly driven by the supply disruptions and logistical issues. So improving the transport systems, energy supply and local production will increase the efficiency and also reduce the production costs, ensuring a more stable supply of goods and services. So finally, the targeted cash transfer or digital voucher should replace broad subsidies. Targeted support protects low-income households while minimizing the inflationary pressure. So this ensures assistance goes to those who need it most without significantly increasing overall demand.
First, to support economic growth, the government and central bank can use a mix of monetary, fiscal, and structural policy. One key approach is gradual monetary tightening, such as increasing interest rate in a controlled way. This helps reduce excessive borrowing and spending, which can slow down inflation without causing a sudden economic slowdown. At the same time, the government can improve the supply side of the economy. For example, by supporting local production, improving food and energy supply chains, and reducing production costs. This helps increase supply, which can naturally ease price pressures. In addition, targeted subsidies or cash assistance should be given to lower income households so they are protected from rising living costs while overall inflation is controlled.
Second, although inflation is usually seen as a problem, it can also create certain opportunities for businesses. Moderate inflation can encourage firms to increase efficiency and innovative in order to reduce costs and stay competitive. It can also push companies to invest in technology and also automation. For the government, inflation pressure can highlight weak areas in the economy, such as overdependence on imports, which create an opportunity to strengthen the local industry and improve food and energy security. For individuals, inflation can encourage better financial planning, saving habits, and investment in assets that protect value, such as education or long-term investment. So overall, while raising the inflation creates challenges, it can also drive the policy into the improvements, stronger industries, and more disciplined financial behavior if managed properly.